Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamerspro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. So, as you guys are aware, the Boston Celtics just won their 18th NBA championship. And by winning their 18th NBA championship, they have gone ahead of the Lakers by one championship, right? So yesterday on ESPN First Take, they asked the following question, which was this: which is the better franchise, the Celtics or the Lakers? Now, let's fast forward, rewind. Today, they had Chris Mad Dog Russo on the show. And I clicked on the video, the ESPN clip. And in the beginning of the clip, they started to play a flashback to what Stephen A. Smith said yesterday, which is what we're covering today. And as I was watching the clip and I was listening to his rationale, I'm listening to him for his reasons for why he's saying that he has the Lakers ahead of the Boston Celtics. And then it occurred to me, I'm like, wait a minute. So with this rationale, then, if you apply it to Jordan and LeBron, Stephen A. Smith, by his rationale here, is inadvertently saying that LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. Now, some of you are like, what is the argument that he put forward? What is this ridiculous argument that he put forward? What we want to do now is want to play exactly what Stephen A. Smith had to say about why he believes the Lakers should be ahead of the Celtics, and then want to come back and really get into the meat and potatoes of this show. Take a listen to that there.
SA, is Boston now the best NBA franchise?
Not so fast. Magic Johnson, never fear. Your boy Stephen A. is here. I understand that they have 18 championships to the Lakers' 17 championships. I get that. But I also know that this is feeding off a 16-year drought.
Yeah.
Okay? And I would remind everybody out there that the Boston Celtics, even with the great Bill Russell, with the great, I wish Doggy was here, the great Bob Cousy, John Havlicek, and all of these guys, Sam Jones, the list goes on and on. I will remind you, Eminem, Wendy, that the Boston Celtics have 23 NBA Finals appearances. The Los Angeles Lakers have 32. So yes, you do have one more ring. That is fair. But the Los Angeles Lakers have 9 more finals appearances, which means that although they have one less title, their time spent in relevancy is significantly more than yours. That would make you the better overall franchise. Yeah, you could have, like, for example, Michael, obviously this is not a comparison, but third on the list would be the Michael Jordan Bulls. They've got 6 NBA titles, all 6 when he was there. Damn it, they ain't been back since he been gone, okay? And we paid no attention to number 4 he arrived, okay? So you got that going on. Golden State Warriors, San Antonio Spurs, 5 championships. Actually, the Warriors are third on the list. They've got 7 titles, 12 trips. Then the Bulls at number 4, 6 appearances, 6 championships. Spurs have 5 championships and 6 appearances. We get that.
So you heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say there. Stephen A. Smith is essentially ranking the Lakers ahead of the Celtics because they have more finals appearances, although the Celtics have won more championships in less attempts. With that logic, you could very well say that you have LeBron ranked ahead of Michael Jordan because LeBron has been to the finals more, and therefore he's more relevant. But that's an ass backwards way of making an argument. But that's what he's doing. That's what he tried to do for the Celtics. Listen, what we value in sports is winning, not the volume of attempts. What we value is winning. Here's what gets me. Some LeBron fans may watch what Stephen A. Smith just said and said, you know what, he makes a fantastic point. He makes an excellent point. LeBron has been there more, and therefore he's been more relevant. So therefore he should be ranked ahead of Jordan, even though Jordan has more championships. But then I can also ask a LeBron fan, but you guys hold efficiency against Kobe. You said, well, Kobe only shot 44, 45% for his career, so he's not very efficient. But then neither is your finals record. Well, when you put it like that, doesn't work. It's a ridiculous argument. The amount of times the Lakers have been to the finals versus the Celtics is irrelevant. And oh, by the way, I think the Celtics, I couldn't find the exact record, but the Celtics are more what is it? The Celtics have beaten the Lakers more during their head-to-head matchups. They've actually dominated them in their head-to-head matchups. The Boston Celtics have 166 wins to the Lakers 134 wins. 166 wins. In the playoffs, they've beat them 43 times to the Lakers 31. So, to me, if we're just going off of winning, then it's the Celtics. Because both organizations have Pantheon greats. Celtics have Bob Cousy, Robert Parrish, Larry Bird. You have Paul Pierce. Bill Russell. So many great players, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Top 75 guys. Then, of course, the Lakers, you have the Shaqs, the Wilts, the Kareems, the Kobes. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So both of these franchises have had big names play for them. But in terms of winning, it's been the Celtics. Now, is it by a wide margin? No, it's only one championship. As a matter of fact, in the last 20 years, the Lakers have 6 championships to the Celtics 2. But as things are trending now, the Celtics are actually trending in the better direction. So, to me, I think that's a ridiculous argument. And by saying that, you've essentially said that LeBron should be ranked ahead of Jordan. And by the way, today he was talking about it. He was like, "Well, if you look at what the Celtics face in their what is in the competition that Bill Russell and them face, we got to take that into account." So, what about the competition LeBron was facing in the East? We're gonna take that into account too. The cakewalk East, the butter soft East. Now LeBron is in the West, and he's finding out the West ain't no joke. The West ain't just no joke. LeBron has been to the finals one time since he's been in the Western Conference. One time. That 5, 6, 7, 8, that ain't happening no more. Because the West, over the last 20 years, over the last 24 years, has been by far the more dominant conference. By far the more dominant conference. And it's not even close. You could just go by the championships. If you count from the year 2000 to now, Kobe and Shaq, Lakers, and Powell, those guys, they have 5. Then the Golden State Warriors have 4. You're already at 9. Right? Then who else do you have? You have, who else won championships? You have, no. And then the Lakers have 6, so they already have half. Then you have the Spurs, who I think have, the Spurs got to have at least, 4 in there as well? Teams in the East that have won were the Boston Celtics in 2008. You had, and then the Nuggets recently just won. You had the Boston Celtics in 2008. You had the Toronto Raptors in 2019. You had the Milwaukee Bucks in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. Right? I think 2021. Then you have the Miami Heat, who have 2. That's 5. Then who else won a championship? You have Boston that just won just now. I think that's it. I think it's 6. Yeah, and then I think the Spurs have 4. So is anybody else that I'm missing? I think I got it right. So the majority of the championships have come out of the Western Conference. But we're not going to bring that up. So as you guys know, we have officially reached the conclusion of this NBA season. The finals are over, and we have now crowned a new champion in the Boston Celtics. As it turns out, I received the email that I think all of us received from the NBA, where basically Adam Silver said we just witnessed our, what is it? I think we haven't had a back-to-back champion since, I think Miami. So we're looking at what? At least 12 years, 14 years, something like that. It's been a long time, right? But with that, now comes with the reflection of what exactly took place. And in today's show, I want to talk about two things. Number one, I want to talk about the abysmal NBA Finals ratings. And I also want to focus a little bit on the horrendous coverage from ESPN throughout the finals, because ESPN was the network that covered the finals. I first of all want to get into the ratings, because it's something that really surprised me. And I'm going to read from this is from awfulannouncing.com, and it says Celtics Mavericks NBA Finals in 2024 NBA playoff ratings slump for 2023. The 2024 NBA Finals, marred by several blowouts, will not go down as a classic. The finals weren't much to talk about in terms of ratings for ABC either. Sports Media Watch reports they were the least watched finals since 2007, excluding the two COVID era series. The Boston Celtics 4-1 series win over the Dallas Mavericks averaged a 5.8 rating and 11.3 million viewers on the ABC ESPN simulcast Game 3. That's down 3% in viewership from the 2023 NBA Finals featuring the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat. On only the 2020 and 2021 NBA Finals, both impacted by COVID, featured lowered ratings. And this year's finals was the least watched in 2007, when the San Antonio Spurs and Cleveland Cavaliers series drew 9.3 million viewers. As a whole, the 2024 playoffs were down significantly from 2023, according to Sports Media Watch. This year's playoff averaged a 2.4 rating and 4.5 million viewers, down 11% and 12% respectively from 2023. ESPN reported Tuesday the NBA Finals led the network's ratings for all 5 nights the series aired, and led all the key demographics. In addition, the release reports this series boasted the highest share of audience ever in the key of 18 to 34 demographic. And then it went on to say another thing, and then it says, it said the NBA Finals Game 5, which saw the Celtics claim a record 18th championship, averaged 12.2 million viewers and peaked with 13.8 million viewers. While that's impressive versus other programs, it's a 6.6 decline from Game 5 of the 2023 NBA Finals. The Nuggets win over the Heat averaged a series high 13.8 million viewers on ABC, and the most watched Game 5 since 2019. So that's what that article had to say there. But there's another aspect of this, which is the coverage from ESPN, because a lot of people have been complaining about it, and we want to read. So let's get into what this report has to say here. It has the headline, ESPN's ups and down NBA season ends with finals to forget. As the major networks and streamers are fighting over multi-billion-dollar NBA media rights, the ESPN Colossus has wrapped up yet another finals. The network is reportedly set to maintain its rights to air the finals through 2036, but the 24 series was marred by several noticeable hiccups throughout its final coverage. Some were minor, like on Monday's night, announcer Mike Breen mistakenly identified a random woman in the crowd as Celtics player Drew Holiday's wife, for which later he corrected and apologized. The real Lauren Holiday is a well-known and accomplished professional soccer player. ESPN has drawn backlash for its ad-heavy halftime show, with about 2 total minutes of airtime devoted to studio crew between extensive commercial breaks in Game 1. And from the start of the finals, there have been a lot of criticism about ESPN's halftime show, which is not really a halftime show. It's about 20-second long content nuggets positioned around commercials. It's like the popcorn shrimp of studio shows. The pregame show was also widely panned for its actual content, covering topics from Dan Hurley's coaching decision to analyst Mike Wilbon's Tim Hardaway Jr. needing to step up in Game 2, in which he ended up not playing a single second. All of this comes while the network is drawing some of its lowest finals viewership in years. Despite a slight increase in regular season viewership, the Mavericks' one win of the series in Game 4 was the least watched finals game in the traditional June slot in 2007, according to Sports Media Watch. Then the article then goes on to say a few other things. ESPN's lead NBA broadcast team has dealt with uncertainty all year. The network fired Jeff Van Gundy, who won a ring as a Celtic consultant and is headed to the Clippers as an assistant next season, and Mark Jackson replacing them with Doris Burke and Doc Rivers. But Rivers lasted only a few months, taking over the Bucks coaching job in January. He was replaced by JJ Redick, who may end up with a similarly brief tenure in his role if he takes over as the Lakers head coach. So that's what these articles had to say. Number one, the NBA just landed this new lucrative media deal that's going to give them about $76 billion over the next 11 years, 10 to 11 years. And I still don't know how they were able to triple their revenue and have these type of numbers in the finals. I just don't know. Now, in the case of ESPN's coverage of the finals, I think they made a gross mistake letting go of Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy. It was a gross mistake, and you're seeing it now. Like, let's just be honest. The crew that they have right now, Mike Breen, Doris Burke, and JJ Redick, they're good, but they're not Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy. Like, let's just be honest for a second. I think that was a blunder. But now, as the article alluded, Jeff Van Gundy is not going to be the lead assistant for the Los Angeles Clippers, and I think Mark Jackson is doing something else. I think it's with Cameron and Mason, all of them. So, look, this is what people feel. They feel like ESPN didn't do a good job. Hopefully, they take the criticism, they listen to it, and try to improve for the coming finals that we have coming down the turnpike. So, as you guys know, the Lakers now are in search of their head coach, although many reports out there are saying that it's going to be JJ Redick. So that's one bit of news. But we've also been following the Lakers in terms of their relationship to Bronny James, LeBron's oldest son. And for the past, 5, 6, 7 months, all of us have been speculating whether or not the Lakers are going to draft Bronny James. And as things began to pan out and, he started to do tryouts and all of that, he just miraculously ended up falling to the 55th pick. And you guessed it, what team has the 55th pick? The Los Angeles Lakers. So now it's beginning to look like that the Lakers are going to bring him on. But that's not really the heart of it. It's a part of what we want to discuss, but that's not the heart of it. The heart of it is the following. This morning I came across a show called Unsportsmanlike. It's an ESPN show, and it features a panel of Evan Cohen, Chris Canty, and Michelle Smallman. It's an ESPN show, and I was watching it this morning. I think it's the first time I've actually seen it. And essentially what this crew was reacting to was the news of Bronny James turning down multiple teams because apparently multiple teams are trying to get a hold of Bronny James, and he's basically shunning them. He's refusing to show up. He's not working out for them. And he seems like the only two teams that he is willing to work out for are the Lakers and the Phoenix Suns, which is interesting. So the panel was essentially talking about the fact that how they have never seen a situation like this. And they were basically saying that this is essentially nepotism. And they were saying that the only reason he's in the position that he's in is because he's LeBron James's son. Because if you look at his actual play in college and his physical attributes, it doesn't warrant a player who decides I want to work out with this team and I don't want to work out with that team. And they had a pretty robust conversation around it. So that's what we want to play right now. So we want to play exactly what they had to say. I want you guys to listen to it in its entirety because I think they made some pretty interesting points, and then we're going to come back and unpack what they had to say. Take a listen to the crew here.
Oh, Evan, my, how this has turned. Remember in the beginning of this process when Bronny James said, I just want to fulfill my dream of being in the NBA. I just want to go about this process. I'm just a regular prospect like everybody else. Well, reality has hit, and it's slowly but surely been coming out. But the fact that other teams might be interested in Bronny James and they can't get a hold of him or get him in his building because of a potential, as Wendy outlined, draft promise that he could go to the Lakers, and his agent, Rich Paul, doesn't want him necessarily to visit with other teams because he doesn't want him on a two-way contract. When have we ever heard of a player who is projected to go between, 40 and 55, 58 maybe, and they're not going to every possible visit that they can, that they're not embracing every aspect of this process or wanting any team that could have potential interest in them to see what they can do. But that's why at the beginning of this entire thing, I was like, why are we pretending that Bronny James is an average prospect? He can say all the right things, but his actions and that of Rich Paul and Clutch, and frankly of LeBron and the Lakers, have shown you that he's not the average prospect. He's LeBron James' son, and he is being treated as such.
Does Bronny James want to play in the NBA, or does he want to play with his dad? This is two different things, or these are two different things. Gavoni's report yesterday indicating teams can't get him in the building, to me, means he just wants to play with his dad. Now, in theory, that is okay. In that scenario, you're almost better off undrafted. You should just tell everybody you do not want to be drafted. Because in that, you could just sign with the Lakers then. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be a two-way deal. You're an undrafted free agent that signs a standard NBA contract with the team that wants you and the team that you want. Because I think Rich Paul is the best agent in the NBA. Let's not get it twisted. And this is exactly why he's the best agent in the NBA.
Certainly the most powerful.
Yeah, because he is doing everything possible for his clients, even if it seems to the rest of us like it is completely and utterly unreasonable. It is ridiculous that a player that averaged 5 points a game in college, now granted, his preparation and his season cut short because of an unfortunate heart condition. I am not blaming Bronny James for the late start, all of that stuff, right?
Of course not.
But
the numbers are the numbers.
The numbers are the numbers. Exactly right. Like, this is all about him going to play with his dad. To not take visits with any team that calls you is unbelievable to me. He doesn't want to play in the NBA based on the perception that we are getting right now. He wants to play with the Los Angeles Lakers and his father. Now, that is okay, but there's one other thing that Gavoni said there, Smalls, dealing with the repercussions of what happens if he gets drafted. So wait a minute. So if a young man who, by all accounts, is a wonderful young man, and Bronny James, everybody says great things about him, fulfills a lifelong dream by going to the NBA, there's going to be repercussions by somebody drafting him, averaging 5 points a game or whatever it is at a USC? What are we talking about here? He should ask to not be drafted.
So you heard what the panel had to say there. As a matter of fact, before we produced this show, we actually published a poll. We ran a poll on our channel about 2 hours ago. And you can go and vote and leave your comments. But essentially, the question was this to the audience. We said, are you for or against nepotism? Out of the 2,000 people that have voted, and there's going to be more people by the time the show comes out, 26% of the voters said yes, while 74% said no. Let me read some of the comments. One person said, this actually is not an easy poll. I'm 100% for parents helping open doors for their children. Good parents want to do that. The issue is when kids did nothing to earn their opportunity and they don't put in the effort and are unqualified to fill that role, whatever it may be. Another person said, with great opportunity comes great responsibility. It's the lack of the latter that makes people resent the former. Another person said, I'm not against nepotism. It's been around since inception. Another person said, nothing wrong with putting your people in place once you get in, as long as they have the know-how. Another person said, for anybody that says they're against it, keep the same energy if you create a successful company or are part of something successful. Do not pass it down to your kids or try to put it in your kids put your kid in the best position to succeed. Let them get out there, let them get it out of the mud. And a few other people weighed in on the issue. I even asked my wife about it. And I said, what are your thoughts on nepotism? We just had a daughter. And I'm like, what do you think about it? And she said she's somewhere in the middle. She's for it and she's against it. For it in the sense that, look, if I have a company and I have children and I'm going to leave the company to the children. Now, she said, if, for example, I want to make one of my kids the manager and they don't have the attributes and they're simply not good enough, then I'll have somebody else run the company and then maybe they'll just get shares of the profits. That's what she said, right? What are my thoughts on this as it pertains to Bronny James? Clearly, this is nepotism here. and it's quite overt. Now, what surprises me is the following. I'm more surprised that what's happening with, and obviously he has an agent in Rich Paul, and I don't know the inner workings of what's going on here. But when I listened to him a few weeks ago, seems like a very sharp guy, very, very sharp guy. I'm talking about Bronny James. And he was saying that he just wants to make his own name. And if you want to make a name for yourself and kind of step out of the shadow of your father, LeBron James, then one would tell you I would even want to go to an organization that he didn't even play for. I would want to go somewhere else and make a name for myself. But in this particular situation here, it seems like as if he's being kind of shooed in to the position of the Lakers to go be directly with his father. Now, he may be saying, hey, maybe who was better to learn from than my dad? But then you're around him all your life, so you can still learn basketball from him. If you're around him, you've been around him for years. So you have that aspect of it. In terms of nepotism, it's an interesting one. It really, really is, because for the parents watching, I think that when you have kids and you're working, you want to do everything in your power to ensure that your kids have a better life than you. But then there's a balance in that, because yes, you want them to have a better life than you, want them to have an easier life, but you don't want them to now become complacent. You don't want them to become entitled. And some kids are just sitting there waiting to cash in on pappy's or mammy's money. That's just how they are. They ain't worth nothing, a damn thing. All they're doing is just waiting to cash in. And for me, I've seen various situations. Of course, you guys know I'm from Nigerian descent, and in our family, we're Igbos, and my dad and them, they're from a number of states, so they're like heavy into the culture. And one of the traditions there is that if you're a successful person, you usually bequeath all of your wealth, or the majority of it, if you have sons, to your sons. And then the daughters, and the rationale is that, well, the daughters are going to get married, they're going to go to another family, they're going to take on a different name. So if I give all of my wealth or some of my wealth to my daughters, like I'm giving it to the other family, right? Instead of keeping it in my family. That's kind of the rationale. But things have been changing over the last few years. People are behaving quite differently. Why do I bring that up? Because this thing of, okay, you're going to give your wealth, or your son, your first son, which is really important, going to take over your company and do all of that. Some people are for that, right? And I know a person, he's a very, very popular media personality. His name is Man Like Chico. You may know him, you may not know him. You can Google him. He's a very, very popular guy, always hanging out with Burna Boy and all of that. And his father, who's good friends with my dad, he's a very, 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 very wealthy guy. Like, there's just no two ways about it. He produces aluminum and all of that. And his son, who's now the top dog under his dad's company and his first son, this dude is burning money fast. I mean, he is balling out of control. He is balling out of control. I think he just bought 2 G-Wagon Barbus, G-Wagons, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, flying private, you name it. You name it, right? Now, if I, on the other hand, and I don't need to, by the way, if I had to borrow $100 from my dad, first thing I know, I'm not going to get that $100 that same day. I'm not going to, because of course we got to go through the expert. By the time he sends you that money, you would have already solved the problem. It's a totally different thing. He's like, you go out there, you make it for yourself, and then you don't spend time looking at what, and that's just how he views it. But it comes down to and then you have some people, regardless of the gender of the kids, they're going to give all their money to their kids equally. But it's an interesting conversation nevertheless. In the case of Bronny James and LeBron, I think definitely that's what's taking place here. And I think is a reality of life. And I think that, some people are going to handle their kids differently. I remember an interview to close here. I remember an interview that took place, I think it was on Forbes or something like that, with Puff Daddy years ago. And it was when he bought his son, Justin, a Rolls Royce for his 16th birthday. And the interviewer said, you as a businessman, you who didn't grow up with wealth, do you think that sends a good example to your son to buy him a Rolls Royce Phantom at 16 years old? And Puffy got pretty defiant. He's like, he's my child and I can do whatever the hell I want. I can buy him whatever gift I want to give. There's some people like that as well.